Brother Tyler, invite the guests into the lodge and leave the door open so others may join us in our little discussion tonight. Welcome to another episode of Follow Me. We are your hosts. To my left, your right, Worship Brother Wiley Forrester. And I'm Worship Brother Will Moore. Tonight's episode is brought to you by Peace
and Harmony. We'd like to give a big shout out and thanks to all that have joined us tonight. I see that our graphic had some strange questions and some things that, said it seemed strange and other things.
Should I explain it?
Yeah, by all means.
All right, so the title is TU. And if you had taken those binary numbers in the graphic and typed them into a converter, you would have found that they spelled out two words and a symbol: tolerance and understanding. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about those two things. Tolerance being the ability to endure what is difficult or disagreeable without complaining. Being patient and indulgent towards those whose opinions or practices differ from one's own.
There was a song during the Vietnam War, and it was aimed towards the soldiers that were battling over there in that country, and it was written by the Hollies or performed by the Hollies, and it talked about, he ain't heavy, he's my brother.
He's my brother.
He's my brother. So,
But I am heavy.
Yeah, you are. You're a pretty big fellow. But there's no more appropriate song than this when talking about tolerance. And a verse from the song says, He doesn't weigh me down. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. What a huge statement for the current events to which we're currently facing. And as we're trying to transition from things now, we're going to have to carry our brethren even more, but we're going to have to become more tolerant and understanding. Period. True brotherly love is when a brother can show tolerance when he is in complete disagreement. Thus the old saying, hate the sin and not the sinner.
And even if someone's opinion differs from yours, doesn't make them wrong, it doesn't make you right.
Well, and that's so true, because Freemasonry is supposed to be non-judgmental, non-confrontational, peace-loving fraternity. Think about it. You bind all those things together. We're supposed to be a non-judgmental,
non-confrontational,
and peace-loving fraternity. That doesn't mean we should or ever accept evil, immortality, or injustice into our fraternity. Immorality, not immortality, because we believe in that stuff. But sorry, a little tongue-tied. But
it just means that we should not criticize each other just because we don't agree or like their thoughts.
And that is so true, and we see it so often. Freemasonry, we're so different, and we come from different ideologies and different thought processes. Our whole fraternity is built up on the ability to be different and it be okay.
Right.
But, sometimes we fall into the vice of not necessarily, just because we don't agree with the brother in his statement, well, he's automatically wrong.
Well, when we opened this up, we talked about it being peace and harmony. Being brought to you by Peace and Harmony. And every lodge room should be that haven of peace where harmony prevails.
That's fact.
And no brother should ever worry about harm when he steps inside those doors, or when he steps up to another brother.
Right.
This includes racism. That's a big nasty word these days. Slander, berating, or any other vulgarities.
Right.
So, we just wanted to come to you guys in the audience today and talk about the tolerance and understanding, because as we get closer to going back to lodge, we have to put aside those things that we've seen on social media sites, people berating other people, getting down on other people for things. We can't let those carry over into us going back to lodge.
Right. We cannot We cannot bring those things into our lodge. We've been away from lodge for so long, 12 weeks now, since our last meeting. We have got to be tolerant of each other. We've got to be understanding. Guys, we don't know what vices or what life issues have hit these brethren. So, we need to make sure that we're more cognizant of those things.
Well, when we go back to lodge, we're going to see some folks want to wear a mask.
Right.
Some folks won't want to wear a mask. Some folks will want to wear gloves or fist bump or elbow bump and not hug others. You got to be tolerant of all that as we get back into this normal of life again, and understand that everyone's going to react to this differently and has reacted differently. So when they come to that lodge, regardless of what they have on or the way they want to interact with you, be mindful of that. And that's just one little tidbit that you got to think about as we go back to lodge, because I know I'm hopeful that in the next 3 weeks we get to go back.
Yeah, and we need to make sure that we refrain from criticizing others.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
you shouldn't wear a mask. You've been drinking the Kool-Aid.
Right.
You know what? It's each individual's choice, and I should be able to, as a Mason, go into my lodge and make the choices that I want to make, as long as I'm not hurting someone else.
Yeah, and we can't. Back to what I was saying about not agreeing. We got to make sure that we provide that spot. Every lodge should be a haven of peace where harmony prevails no matter. You know what I'm saying? And no brother should ever worry about harm that comes to him. This includes racism. I heard you speaking about slander, the vices and other vulgarities that come along with those things. We've got to rise above and be the cream of the crop that we want to be. And our teachings throughout our degrees teach us that to search for wisdom and understanding. It teaches us that we should all search for those things throughout our degrees. You were taught about it every single degree about learning to seek out the truth.
Right.
Enlightenment. You're looking for these things. No matter what the indifferences that we got in whatever it is, we should all want to end at the same, and truth should always prevail.
Well, I believe that if I remember right from our talk before this started, I believe you have a poem.
I do have a poem.
And I think you ended that with truth to prevail. This is where that poem ought to fit in.
Yeah, and Paul Copen is a ethic. He writes on ethics, and I've read several of his books. And in addition to that, he's also a philosopher, and he wrote this poem at one time, and it says, most Masons, I'm sure, can agree on the principles as set out by Paul Copen. Truth is true even if no one knows it. Truth is true even if no one admits it. Truth is true even if no one agrees what it is. Truth is true even if no one follows it. But most of all, truth is truth even if no one but God grasps it fully. So think about that. Truth is going to be truth no matter. So if you're out there and you're in the midst of things will come out. The truth, the old cliche, truth will set you free. Yet truth is not always going to set you free. The truth sometimes is going to hurt your feelings. But the truth of the matter is truth is the ultimate goal of all Masons. Truth must prevail.
Well, that's not true only for Masons. That should be true in life.
Since the first Grand Lodge was formed in England in 1717, Masons have been taught the virtues of tolerance and understanding, more especially when it comes to religion and politics. You and I, we saw an article that was shared with us this morning that a brother out in Indiana or Illinois, I don't remember.
Right.
Anyway, he writes for the Midnight Freemason, and it is a great source of information for you guys if you want to go out and look at it. But it's called the Midnight Freemason, and he wrote this article and was shared with us this morning, and it talks specifically about Masons and how they should act and things of that nature, and what we've learned from our shutdown during our pandemic, not being able to go to lodge.
Right.
The big thing is social media in relevance to politics and religion. You know, there's so many different beliefs out there about what's trying to be done about religion. You know, folks trying to stamp out Christianity. They're trying to bring this religion more to the forefront. Whatever. That's stuff I don't get involved in. But when you look at social media and brethren are not acting like brethren on social media, and the truth is, you're a Mason 365 days a year. You're not a Mason just when you attend that lodge meeting.
Right.
And that's what hurts.
Well, we've talked about that several times. You've got to be a Mason 24/7. And we understand most are. We understand that some aren't. But I guess it's something I got to say again. You know, you could possibly be the only Mason someone ever meets.
Well, and what hurts the worst for me is when I sit and I watch guys who I know are so involved and are so dedicated to their lodge and being who they are as Masons, and then you look on social media and you see
a different person.
It's basically garbage is what I see being posted on social media in relevance to the country. We were taught as entered apprentice Masons when we were given the lecture at the end, we're supposed to be peaceful subjects. We're supposed to follow the laws of the land even though we don't necessarily agree with them. It's not a platform for us to go out of our way and denounce things that are happening in our government. Yeah, as a United States citizen, we have the certain inalienated rights that we can express ourselves. And I'm trying to use a $10 word that inalienable, yeah, that I can't speak today. But I know what's on my heart when it comes to these things, and I've watched very well-spoken men put stuff up there that is not very good in relevance to our government or political matters or whatever. We're not supposed to be into those things. It's not cool.
And that's where we've got to learn to be tolerant.
Yes.
And the biggest thing behind tolerance is understanding. You've got to understand that each person is different. You've got to understand that not everyone's like you. And our country and our world has gotten away from both. They've taken huge strides backwards from both. And I think one of our duties as a Mason, and just something that I feel, is that we've got to help the world get that tolerance and understanding back. Because too often do I see something happens, people think it's unjust, and then they go do more unjust acts to justify it. Because they don't quite understand that two wrongs don't make a right.
Right on. And, you know, you were talking about today in society and how things are in today's society. You know, truth is increasingly pushed aside. You know, it's always pushed aside. And classic examples of those are social media, the regular media, politics, religious stuff. I mean, all those things are being pushed. You know, truth is never there. And people, brethren, we've got to go and experience the truth for ourselves.
Well, and just because it's out there on the internet doesn't mean it's true.
Bonjour, no. If it's on the internet, it must be true.
And I know making a little bit of a light of it, but it's so cliche what we hear these days. If it's on the internet, it's got to be true. Or I saw it here, it must be something.
Yeah, if it's in print, it's just got to be the rule.
Right.
But understand that Masons are supposed to be committed to being honest and truthful. We promise those things. You know, if you think about back during your obligations, And I know it varies from state to state, but the gist is still the same. You get to the same point, even though the few words are changed. You're supposed to be an honest and upstanding person, truthful. We've got to be truthful and tolerant with one another. We're supposed to be. We need to live up to the obligations we made as a Mason.
Well, but you've got to also think about it that just because you're speaking the truth, you have to be tolerant enough of that other person or that other Mason to understand they may not view it as the truth. So you can't jump down their throats just because they don't accept it.
Correct.
And that happens.
Or turn your back on them.
Right.
Just because that you can't make them agree with you because you think your side is more right than his. Now you're just going to turn your back on him. Well, I'm just not going to associate with him. That's not cool, man.
Well, it's not being Masonic.
It's not being at all. As Masons, we were taught 2 principles. You realize that?
I only had 1 principle in school.
Yeah, but the principle you were taught in Lodge was a little bit different. Truth is a divine attribute and the foundation of every virtue. Blah, 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 blah. So let me repeat that.
He's going to walk out and come back in and start over.
Truth is the divine attribute and the foundation of every virtue. Justice was the second principle, is the standard of boundary or right which enables us to render unto every man his just due without distinction. Which means it's not up to us to pass judgment. We're supposed to love that fellow man because he's my brother. He ain't heavy. He's my brother. So, and I know a lot of times you feel like you're carrying the weight of the lodges or the Grand Body or these other organizations. You feel like you're carrying that entire weight on your shoulders. But look at the divine truth in what we're doing. You're one of the foundation stones. What do they talk about with us being a foundation stone? We talk about it all the time. Truth, morality, friendship, brotherly love. All those things are intertwined. Justice and moderation, all together. We're talking about things that Masons should know and know well. Truth and understanding.
But especially in this time right now that we're going through, our tolerance and understanding, and for those that have joined us late, TU in the title was tolerance and understanding, and the binary code was tolerance and understanding. So I noticed people joined late and we're probably still wondering what that graphic was, but we've got to be very tolerant and very understanding of, 1, what's going on in our world, 2, what each individual is going through may not be the same situation you're going through. I know a lot of people got laid off. I know a lot of people got unemployment. There's some unlucky folks that didn't. Things happened. I know a brother who owns a business. He was not able to get a loan just because of the way the business was structured. He wasn't able to get that government money and keep himself afloat. He had to struggle to keep things going. So we have got to be very understanding that, especially as we go back, especially as we get back together with our brethren and those families and those friends, that everybody is going to look at it in a different light, in a different way than especially you look at it.
And especially me, but there are going to be brethren that's going to be hurting.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's going to be brethren that's going to be hurting from a lot of different ways. It could have been a brother who lost his job, or his spouse could have lost her job, or worse, they've had to spend all this time teaching the kids at home, and or something could have happened. They could have lost a loved one.
Well, and they could have also lost each other. A marriage could have dissolved because of all the time they spent together. I know it's very prevalent in a lot of friends that I know that being together that 24/7 has been really tough on family relationships. So you got to be mindful of those things when you see someone that you haven't talked to in a while. Ask them how they're doing. See if there's anything you can do for them. If you're not talking to them through a Zoom or some other communication form, phone, text, emails, whatever, and you haven't talked to them, and all of a sudden you see them 3 weeks from now, if we open back up, ask them how they're doing.
Because depression is real.
Absolutely.
And truth, it's sometimes the pride factor gets in the way, and you and I both know that the pride factor gets in our way with some things. And when you ask the brother how he's doing, you may have to pry a little bit to get the truth, because you know that brother's suffering, and you know that brother's hurting. You know that brother needs you, and you have to figure out the best way to help him, because sometimes he's not going to tell you.
Well, and don't forget about our wives, widows, and orphans.
Yes.
That's one of the things that have kind of fallen off some of our radar, is those that we really must take care of after the Mason has passed away. So, rather than it's a lot to think about and a lot to comprehend, but you got the next 3 weeks to, one, think about what you're going to do when you go back to lodge. Do I remember how to open a lodge? Do I remember how to close a lodge? If you're an officer, do I remember what I need to do? Who I need to contact? Do I remember what time dinner starts?
Well, I'm sure these brethren ain't gonna forget about what time dinner starts.
I tell you what, I'm looking forward to some Masonic green beans. The spaghetti I can still do without, but some Masonic green beans, I understand how good they were after I lost them.
Yeah, I mean, and I hope now that brethren, as we transition and being able to hopefully go back to lodge in 2 or 3 weeks, it could not be, we could not go back 2 or 3 weeks. I don't know. But what I'm saying is I hope that you brethren have taken the time during this downtime to really appreciate what we haven't had. The truth about the fact of how much you need your brethren as much as they need you. And I've really realized that especially over the past several weeks, of how much I need the visual contact other than digital. Even though digital has really helped us survive and kept our fire lit, and I just want you to understand that it means as much to me as it does to everyone else. Yeah. I'm ready to go. So with that said, we got just our show will be a little shorter tonight than it has been in the past, but that's our goal, is to get them down, because we're trying to prep to go back to lodge too.
We got to put some shows in the can for one. So
right. So
when we do go back, we're still going to put videos out on Tuesdays.
Yeah, we're not going to give this up. It's too much fun.
But there'll be canned episodes. We'll be recording something probably anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. They'll be short and clean.
Canned does not mean from the latrine.
Not in the can.
That's right.
Canned. But they won't be canned green beans either. So
anyway, to wrap us up and some of the things that we've talked about tonight, we should understand that Freemasonry teaches toleration, or the right we have as Masons to abide by our own faith and beliefs without the fear of retaliation.
Right.
That is so key, that we have the right to abide by our own faith and beliefs without the fear of retaliation, just because we don't agree or our views differ.
Yeah, we, believe it or not, the two of us don't always agree.
A lot more than you think.
I know it surprised a lot of you, but we do get some conversations about stuff. Now, there's a lot of things we agree on, and that's why we think we fit well together for this show. But there are things that
they're pretty heated. So, but you know what? When he leaves at the end of the night and he goes home, that's still my friend, and that's my brother. I know he's my brother, and I was reminded of something today in a conversation I had with someone. You're my Masonic brother, and I'm gonna have to love you. I promised I would. But when you commit that person to being your friend, that takes on a whole different meaning. When you include friend into the mix. So the principles of tolerance and understanding should always be inspired by the Masonic tenets of friendship, morality, and brotherly love. Just as the 16th degree in Scottish Rite teaches us. We know those things. So, for those of us who are Scottish Rite Masons, understand those concepts. We'll go ahead and do our quotes before we do my final thought.
He has a final thought.
I got a final thought, and it's pretty deep, so I want to be able to share that.
Okay.
So go ahead.
So tolerance implies no lack of commitment to one's own beliefs. Rather, it condemns oppression or persecution of others. John F. Kennedy.
In the practice of tolerance, one's enemies is the best teacher. Dalai Lama. So I would like to give a big shout out to our resources for this week before we get there. I look at the Beehive. I subscribe to them. The Masonic Trial is another good information source. And
Trowel, not
Trial for us country people is trial.
Sounds like it's saying trial.
It's not trial.
It's trial.
It's trial. The trial. So I can't even get it out in proper English. But anyway, Pinch Your Stones Review of Freemasonry is another great source of information. You know, guys, we try to load you up with places you can go and find stuff.
Because we encourage you to go out and research some of this stuff. And if you find something that we've said wrong, thought about wrong, please let us know.
Yes.
We don't have a problem. We're not like the newspapers these days. We don't have a problem putting a retraction.
And we want to give this, and we want to give credit where credit's due, because, you know, I'm obviously tonight not smart enough to write anything down on paper. So, you know, I have to borrow from some other people. When I read their thoughts, I think, wow, this is a good hit and a nugget for us. So this is where we need to be. So, but anyway, my final thought for tonight on tolerance and understanding. Every true Mason will show tolerance by respecting the opinions of others and should behave with kindness and understanding to each other. Our opinions may differ in our views, but truth shall prevail always. To be able to respect our differences and yet still feel and believe that we are friends and brethren is the only satisfying outlook to the possible issues that we have when it pertains to showing tolerance. Never punish a brother for sharing his ideas or thoughts. Tolerance is a positive and constructive thing. The fact that there is enough trust for the individual to put his thoughts out there should be all a Mason should ever need.
That's powerful right there. That sentence.
Tolerance should be the ever reminder that encourages us to think and act for ourselves and not just follow along blindly. The moral of the story is believe in each other. Just because a brother wants to give you opinion, the fact that he thought of enough of you to share his opinion should be all you need as a brother. It is your job to listen and listen intently, love one another, be good to each other, and always remember. Be excellent.
Look at you feeding me my lines.
See, I have to these days. But brethren, thank you again for joining us. We're so appreciative of all of you, and I know that it may not be as deep as some things that we've done. We will never apologize for what we do. Remember, this is our opinion and how we view things in Masonry. We're ready to go back to Lodge.
Yeah, absolutely ready to go back to Lodge. Please remember, if you haven't, to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We just went over 350. We got 351 subscribers, and that's fantastic. Just a quick case in point, don't forget about the Grand Lodge of Georgia Facebook page. Don't forget about the Follow Me Facebook page and the other links you saw throughout the video tonight. Invite your friends, invite your family, invite other brethren to come watch us. Go back and watch our past episodes. They might learn something. I went back and watched some of our episodes, and
we watched episode 1 tonight, and we're definitely a different crew than that.
We were a little stiff back there.
But now I just can't talk at all. So anyway,
be excellent to each other. We love you all, and good night.
Good night.